Days blurred together in tense silence. Selene kept her head down at NASA, answering only when spoken to, attending meetings without contributing. To her colleagues, she appeared chastened, subdued, perhaps even broken. Cross seemed satisfied, convinced the pressure had finally crushed her defiance. But the facade was an act. Each night, once she was back in the loft, Selene immersed herself again in the stolen data. The signal pulsed across her screens, relentless, impossible to ignore. Every filter, every algorithm she applied peeled back another layer of its design. One evening, after hours of careful decoding, she noticed something she had overlooked before. Within the prime sequences, embedded subtly in the timing intervals, were variations too consistent to be chance. She isolated them, heart pounding, then converted them into spatial coordinates. Her breath caught. On the star map projected across her wall, a point of light flared into focus. It wasn't within Carina itself, but slightly off-center, near the faint dust cloud the message seemed to emphasize. She cross-checked the coordinates against every NASA database she could access through her backups. Almost nothing existed on the region, just faint, incomplete surveys written off as noise. Selene zoomed in, overlaying old spectrographic scans. The dust cloud parted under analysis, revealing hints of a planetary body orbiting a dim star. The atmosphere, though barely observed, showed tantalizing traces of oxygen signatures. A habitable world. Her pulse quickened. Not only was the signal real, it was guiding her, guiding humanity to a planet that might support life. Whether it was an invitation or a warning, she couldn't yet tell. But the intent was undeniable. Selene grabbed her recorder, speaking rapidly into the mic. Day 12 of analysis. Confirming prime-based sequences correspond to stellar coordinates. Cross-referenced with archival data. Possible terrestrial planet, atmosphere with traces of O2. Location. Uncharted system within Carina dust cloud. Implication. Signal is not random. It is a message pointing us here. Her voice shook as she spoke, equal parts exhilaration and dread. She knew what this meant. If NASA discovered what she now held, they would lock it away forever. If Cross or his handlers realized she had gone this far, she might not live to see morning. So she duplicated the files. She encrypted copies, scattering them across multiple hidden drives, even uploading fragments onto anonymous servers disguised as harmless code. If they came for her, the truth would survive. Her laptop chimed suddenly. A secure channel she'd set up weeks ago flickered to life. Marcus. You need to be careful, his message read. They're talking about shutting you down permanently. I overheard Cross with security this morning. They think you've gone quiet too easily. Selene's stomach tightened. He typed back quickly. I found something. Coordinates. Planet. This changes everything. There was a long pause before his reply appeared. Then you need to disappear. Tonight. She stared at the words, fear clawing at her chest. Disappear. Leave behind her work, her identity, her life. Could she? Her eyes drifted back to the projection on the wall, the glowing point of light hidden in the dust cloud. For years she had dedicated her life to staring at the stars, asking if humanity was alone. Now she had an answer, or at least the first step toward one. She couldn't abandon it. A sound from the hallway snapped her attention back. Heavy footsteps. Pause outside her door. Selene quickly shut down her laptop, heart racing. She extinguished the projector, plunging the loft into shadow. The footsteps lingered, then moved on. She exhaled shakily. They were close. Cross's voice echoed in her memory. Our funding depends on results the public can understand. But what she had uncovered wasn't about funding or politics. It was about the destiny of humanity. Selene touched her silver hair, now damp with sweat, and whispered to herself, You showed me the way. I won't let them silence you. She slid the encrypted drives into a small waterproof case and strapped it under her jacket. Her research was more than data. It was a lifeline, proof that she hadn't imagined the stars speaking to her. Proof that something waited out there. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine what might lie on that hidden world. Ruins of an ancient civilization. Beacons left as breadcrumbs for others to follow. Or perhaps something alive, still watching, still waiting. The thought sent shivers down her spine. Yet beneath the fear, awe bloomed. She glanced once more at Marcus's message. "Disappear. Tonight." And typed a final reply. "Not yet. I have to know more." Outside, sirens wailed faintly in the distance, the city restless in its sleep. Inside, Selene sat in darkness, the encrypted drives pressed close to her chest, her mind burning with the weight of revelation. She had found a planet. And with it, she had crossed the point of no return. 3 days passed before the summons arrived. Selene had been expecting it. The tension in the halls of NASA had become suffocating, every glance in her direction laced with suspicion. Her badge still worked, but she could feel the invisible walls closing in. Then the message appeared in her inbox, short and clinical. "Mandatory attendance. Closed review of your Carina research. 0900 hours. Conference room B12. The words carried the weight of a verdict already decided. She arrived early, her silver hair tied back neatly. Her expression calm though her stomach twisted. The conference room was windowless, its walls sterile white, the long table illuminated by a single strip of fluorescent light overhead. Already seated at the far end were Dr. Cross, 2 security officers in dark suits, and a woman Selene had never seen before. Sharp eyes, perfectly tailored suit, the kind of presence that radiated authority beyond science. "Dr. Arkwright," Cross said smoothly as she entered. "Thank you for coming." Selene took her seat at the opposite end of the table. "I wasn't given a choice." The woman in the suit leaned forward. "Agent Ward, Department of Defense Liaison. We're here to resolve certain concerns regarding your recent activities." Selene's pulse quickened, but she kept her tone steady. "Concerns or accusations?" Cross's lips curved into a thin smile. "That depends on your answers." The lights dimmed, and the screen on the wall flickered to life. Graphs and charts appeared. Her own datasets, her personal notes, even fragments of her private recordings. Selene's breath caught. "How did you get those?" "They were retrieved from your system," Cross replied coolly. "You've been conducting unauthorized analysis outside approved channels. Not only that, but you've duplicated restricted data onto unsecure devices. A serious breach of protocol." Selene's hands clenched. "I backed up data because you locked me out. And I pursued analysis because the evidence demands it. You can't erase what's in those signals just because it makes you uncomfortable." Agent Ward's eyes narrowed. "What you call evidence, Dr. Arkwright, others might call fabrication. These anomalies you claim to see, prime sequences, coordinates, could easily be artifacts of data tampering. Perhaps deliberate." The accusation struck like a blade. "Are you suggesting I falsified the data?" Ward's expression remained unreadable. "We're considering all possibilities, including the possibility that your actions were reckless, perhaps even compromising national security." Selene rose slightly from her chair, fury surging through her. "National security? Since when does the search for truth threaten national security?" Cross's voice snapped like a whip. "Sit down." For a moment, silence hung heavy in the room. Selene forced herself back into the chair, her chest heaving. Ward leaned forward, her voice cool and sharp. "You're brilliant, Dr. Arkwright. No one denies that. But brilliance can tip into obsession. You've been working long hours, isolated, convinced you found something extraordinary. But extraordinary claims demand extraordinary proof. And you haven't provided it." Selene met her gaze without blinking. "I've provided data. Clean, verifiable, repeatable. If you would allow independent review." "No," Cross cut her off, voice final. "This review is the end of it. Effective immediately, you are suspended from all Carina-related projects. Your security clearance will be downgraded. And any further attempts to access restricted data will result in termination of employment. The words crashed over her like a wave. Selene sat frozen, the walls of the room pressing in, the fluorescent light suddenly harsh and blinding. Marcus's warning echoed in her mind. They're building a case. Now she understood. This wasn't a review. It was an execution of her credibility, her career, her future. Ward gathered her files, her tone brisk. You should take this as a mercy, Dr. Arkwright. Careers can be salvaged. Reputations sometimes. But only if you cooperate. My advice, walk away. Cross's smile was thin and cruel. Go home, Selene. Get some rest. Leave the stars to those who can see them clearly. The security officers rose, making it clear the session was over. Selene stood slowly, her body trembling but her voice steady. You can strip my clearance. You can smear my name. But the signal is real. And one day, whether through me or someone else, the world will know. Cross's smile faded into a glare. Ward's eyes narrowed. For the first time, Selene thought she saw a flicker of unease behind their polished control. She left the room without looking back. That night, in her loft, Selene sat in darkness, the encrypted drives clutched in her hands. Her career was collapsing, her reputation under attack. Yet beneath the despair burned something harder, sharper: defiance. They could silence her inside NASA. But they couldn't erase what the stars had already whispered. And if she was to be cast out, then she would carry the truth with her into the shadows. The trap had closed. But Selene was still breathing. And she was not finished. The official notice arrived the next morning. Effective immediately, Dr. Selene Arkwright is suspended without pay pending review of her conduct. Access to all NASA systems is revoked. Security clearance terminated. No explanation. No defense allowed. Just a sentence, blunt and final, delivered to her inbox as if her life's work could be reduced to a single line of text. Selene sat at her desk in the loft, staring at the words until the screen blurred. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages, colleagues offering perfunctory sympathy, others too afraid to say more than a cautious, "I'm sorry." But worse were the headlines that began appearing within hours. NASA scientist under review for data misconduct. Claims of alien signals spark internal investigation. Brilliant but obsessed. Arkwright's fall from grace. Her name, her reputation, was being dragged through mud in real time. Anonymous sources fed the press half-truths and fabrications. That she'd tampered with data, that she'd falsified anomalies to advance her career, even that she'd suffered a mental breakdown. Selene slammed the laptop shut, her silver hair falling across her face. Rage boiled in her chest. She had devoted her life to the stars, not for glory, not for recognition, but for the truth. And now, because she refused to be silent, they were painting her as a fraud. The knock at the door was soft, almost hesitant. He tensed, heart racing. Then Marcus's voice came quietly. "It's me." She let him in. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, as though the weight of keeping her secret had aged him overnight. "They've made you the scapegoat," he said grimly, dropping into a chair. "Cross is telling everyone you manipulated the Carina data. He's even showing doctored graphs as proof." Selene's fists clenched. "So they erased the message by erasing me." Marcus nodded. "It's working. People believe him. They're afraid. No one wants to be associated with you now. Even the ones who supported you in private, they've gone silent." Selene turned away, pacing the small loft. "This isn't just Cross. It's bigger. The stranger was right. They've buried signals before. They'll do whatever it takes to control the narrative." Marcus hesitated. "Selene, if they've done this before, then you need to think carefully. People who push too far don't just lose jobs. They vanish." She froze, remembering the stranger's haunted eyes. His warning about removal. Fear chilled her blood, but anger flared hotter. "I won't vanish," she said. "Not if the truth is already out there." She crossed to her desk and pulled out the encrypted drives, setting them on the table between them. I've made backups, several, hidden where they won't find them. If something happens to me, the data survives. And Marcus, she looked at him sharply. So do you. He swallowed hard but nodded. I'll protect it. But we can't stay on defense forever. They're controlling the story. If you want to fight back, you need to go public. Selene considered it. Her career was already in ruins. What more could they take? Yet she knew the risks. If she released the data openly, they would brand her not just a fraud, but a traitor. The machine against her was massive, relentless. Still, she looked again at the star map glowing faintly on her projector. The hidden planet, the coordinates etched into the signal. Somewhere out there, across 7,000 years of light, something was waiting. I won't let them bury this, she whispered. Marcus leaned forward. Then we need allies. Journalists, independent scientists, people outside the system who can't be silenced as easily. Selene nodded slowly. The plan was reckless, dangerous. But so was standing still. That night, unable to sleep, she sat by the window, the city lights below flickering like a poor imitation of stars. Her reflection stared back at her, silver hair glowing faintly, eyes dark with exhaustion but fierce with defiance. She thought of her father's words. The stars don't lie. They only wait for someone to listen. She had listened, and now she was paying the price. But even stripped of her career, her reputation, her safety, Selene knew one truth with absolute clarity. They hadn't silenced her. Not yet. And as long as she breathed, the message from Carina would not be erased. Selene vanished from NASA headquarters without ceremony. One day she was there, sitting in meetings with a mask of compliance. The next she was gone. Her office sealed, her badge deactivated, her name whispered in corridors like a cautionary tale. But she hadn't disappeared entirely. With Marcus's help, Selene slipped into the cracks between the city's noise and silence. She no longer stayed in her loft. Too exposed, too predictable. Instead, she moved between temporary shelters, a cramped motel near the river, a basement studio offered by a sympathetic graduate student, even a storage room behind a shuttered bookstore. She traveled light, carrying only her encrypted drives and a worn leather satchel stuffed with notebooks. Everywhere she went, she felt the eyes. Men in dark suits loitering at street corners, unmarked sedans parked across from safe houses, the subtle hum of drones overhead. They weren't trying to arrest her, not yet. They were waiting, watching, building the case for a final move. Marcus kept her tethered to the world she'd been forced to abandon. He brought food, relayed whispers from inside NASA, and occasionally smuggled her fragments of data still accessible to him. Each time he looked more nervous, more frayed at the edges. They know you're still active, he told her one night in the dim light of the bookstore's back room. Cross has people monitoring every server. They're watching me too. Selene met his eyes. Then we have to move faster. If they close in, the truth dies with us. She pulled up her laptop, projecting the Carina map onto the wall of peeling paint. The point of light, the hidden world, burned brighter than ever in her imagination. This isn't just data anymore. It's proof that humanity isn't alone. And if the ones in power refuse to acknowledge it, then we'll take it to those who will. Marcus frowned. You mean the press? Not just the press. Her silver hair glinted in the projector's glow. Independent scientists, astronomers outside NASA's control. People who can validate the data publicly. Once it's out, they can't bury it without burying everyone. He hesitated. That's dangerous. If you share the drives, they'll track you through the transfers. Then we do it offline, Selene countered. Hand to hand, face to face. A network of allies. Quiet at first, until the truth is too large to silence. For the first time in days, Marcus saw something return to her expression. Not desperation but purpose. The first contact was a retired professor from MIT, an old colleague of Selene's father. He listened in silence as Selene laid out the decoded signal over coffee in a quiet diner. His hands trembled as he flipped through her notebooks, eyes wide. "This is extraordinary," he whispered. "But if it's real, you understand the danger." "I understand it better than anyone," Selene replied. "But truth doesn't disappear just because it's inconvenient." He agreed to keep a copy, hidden in his archives, and promised to quietly run simulations with his former students. It was a start. The second contact was more difficult, a young investigative journalist who had been chasing rumors of NASA cover-ups for years. She was skeptical at first, assuming Selene was just another disgraced scientist clinging to delusion. But when Selene showed her the prime sequences, the coordinates, the atmospheric traces of oxygen, her skepticism cracked into awe. "If this is true," the journalist murmured, "it'll rewrite history. And if they're burying it—" She shook her head. "They'll come for me too." Selene met her gaze, steady and unflinching. "Then you'll know what I've risked. Decide if the truth is worth it." The journalist pocketed the drive. "It is." But each new ally came with new risk. Twice, Selene noticed men trailing her after meetings. Once, Marcus discovered his apartment had been searched. His files disturbed but nothing stolen, a warning more than a theft. One night, back in the basement studio, Marcus burst in pale-faced, clutching his phone. "They're moving faster. Cross gave a briefing today. He called you a security threat. They're saying you leaked classified material." Selene's chest tightened. "So they're not just discrediting me. They're painting me as an enemy." Marcus nodded grimly. "That gives them justification for whatever comes next." Selene pressed her palms against the table, forcing herself to breathe. Fear clawed at her, but she refused to bend. "Then we're on the right track. The closer we get to the truth, the harder they'll fight to bury it." She looked up at the projection on the wall, the hidden planet glowing in silence, waiting. "This isn't just about me anymore," she whispered. "It's about what's out there. About who we are as a species, and whether we have the courage to face it." Marcus watched her, torn between fear and admiration. "So what do we do?" Selene's silver hair shimmered as she straightened, her voice steady. "We keep going. We spread the truth until it can't be erased. And when they come for us, we'll already be too late to stop." Outside, the city moved on unaware. Inside, in the shadows of a forgotten basement, the fight for the stars had already begun. The network had begun to grow. Selene now had half a dozen allies. The retired professor, the young journalist, a pair of independent astronomers in Europe, even a software engineer who specialized in encryption. Each held a piece of her data, each sworn to guard it. For the first time in weeks, Selene felt a flicker of hope. But hope was fragile. One evening, she and Marcus arranged a meeting with a new contact, a data analyst recommended by the journalist. His name was Adrian Lowe, a clean-cut man in his 30s with a calm demeanor and a reassuring smile. They met in the quiet corner of a library, far from cameras and curious eyes. "I've heard what you're doing," Adrian said, lowering his voice. "And I want to help. People deserve to know the truth." He listened intently as Selene laid out her findings, asking intelligent questions, nodding at the right moments. When she handed him a small encrypted drive, he held it with care, as if it were something sacred. "You can trust me," he said. "I'll run independent checks, keep it off the grid. No one will trace it back to you." Selene wanted to believe him. She needed to believe him. 2 nights later, Marcus shook her awake in the basement studio, panic in his eyes. "They know," he hissed. "They know about the drives." Selene bolted upright, her heart pounding. "What? How?" "Someone talked," Marcus said, pacing frantically. "Cross confronted me this morning. He knew details only you and I discussed with Adrian." The truth struck like lightning. "Adrian." Selene's stomach dropped. She wanted to deny it, but the pieces fit too perfectly. He hadn't been an ally at all. He'd been the net tightening around her. Before she could respond, Marcus grabbed her arm. "We have to move. Now." They slipped into the night, weaving through side streets. Selene clutched her satchel to her chest, the encrypted drives inside feeling heavier than ever. Every shadow looked like a threat, every passing car like a hunter. They reached the edge of an underpass when headlights flared suddenly, blinding them. A black SUV roared toward them, engine screaming. "Run!" Marcus shouted, shoving her aside. Selene stumbled, crashing against the concrete wall as the SUV swerved, tires screeching. It clipped the edge of the sidewalk, missing her by inches before thundering past and vanishing into the night. For a moment, silence. Her chest heaved, lungs burning. Then the reality hit. It hadn't been an accident. "They tried to kill us," Selene gasped. Marcus pulled her to her feet, his face pale. "A staged accident. Clean, deniable. If you'd been a step slower." Selene's body trembled with adrenaline, but beneath the fear, rage ignited. They hadn't just destroyed her career. They were ready to erase her entirely. Back in a new hideout, a dingy motel with peeling wallpaper, Selene sat on the bed, staring at the encrypted drive spread across the blanket. Her silver hair hung loose, damp with sweat. "They won't stop," she whispered. "They'll keep coming until I'm gone." Adrian proved that. Marcus sat across from her, rubbing his temples. "Then you can't trust anyone new. Every hand you shake could belong to them. Every offer of help could be another trap." Selene looked up, eyes blazing. "Then we go forward without trust. Without safety. This isn't about me anymore. It's about the signal. About the world it points to. If they're willing to kill to bury it, then it matters more than even I imagined." Marcus met her gaze. "Selene, you don't owe the stars your life." Her voice hardened. "I owe humanity the truth. Even if the cost is mine." Later that night, as Marcus slept fitfully in the chair, Selene sat at the small desk, scribbling in her leather notebook. Every detail of the Carina signal, every discovery, every coordinate. She copied them by hand, line after line, page after page. If the drives were destroyed, her notes might still endure. She paused, staring at the glowing point of light she had sketched over and over. The hidden world. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Why send us this map? And why must so many die to keep it secret?" No answer came. Only the steady hum of the motel's broken air conditioner, and the echo of the SUV's tires screaming in her memory. Selene closed the notebook, her resolve like iron. They could discredit her. They could hunt her. They could even try to kill her. But they would not stop her. The motel room was dark, lit only by the faint glow of Selene's laptop. Rain tapped against the window, steady as a heartbeat. On the bed lay the encrypted drives, her leather notebook, and a phone connected to a secure hotspot. Selene's silver hair shimmered in the dim light as she stared at the blinking cursor on her screen. She had prepared everything. The files compressed, the encryption cracked open just enough for outsiders to verify, the coordinates translated into plain language. A single keystroke would send it all spiraling across the web. To journalists, independent scientists, archivists, even amateur astronomers who would recognize the patterns instantly. It would be irreversible. Once released, the data could never be pulled back. Marcus paced behind her, restless. "If you send this, they'll come for you harder than ever. Cross-ward the entire machine, they won't just smear you anymore. They'll destroy you." Selene's eyes didn't leave the screen. "They already tried. You don't have to do this," Marcus pressed. "We can disappear. New names, new lives. We can keep the data safe, wait for the right time." Selene finally turned, her expression weary but unyielding. "And how many more decades will the truth stay buried? How many others will stumble across it and vanish like ghosts? Well, if I stop now, I become part of their silence. I won't." Marcus's shoulders slumped. He knew she was right, but the weight of it terrified him. Selene returned to the keyboard, fingers hovering over the keys. For a moment doubt whispered. Would humanity be ready for this? What if the signal wasn't an invitation but a warning? What if the planet it pointed to held not salvation, but ruin? She thought of her father's words. The stars don't lie. They only wait for someone to listen. She had listened. And now she would make the world listen too. Her finger pressed down. Enter. The files launched, splitting into dozens of packets, scattering across networks faster than any agency could stop. Within seconds, the Carina signal was no longer hers alone. It belonged to the world. Selene exhaled a shaky, almost disbelieving breath. It's done. Marcus leaned against the wall, running a hand through his hair. God help us. The response was immediate. Within hours, encrypted forums buzzed with chatter. Amateur astronomers confirmed the prime sequences. Independent scientists verified the coordinates. Rumors spread like wildfire. A NASA researcher uncovered proof of intelligent life and was silenced. By dawn, headlines exploded across the globe. Hidden signal points to habitable world. Whistleblower defies NASA cover-up. Selene sat in the motel room, watching the chaos unfold on her screen. Her name was everywhere. Some hailed her as a hero, others branded her a liar, a criminal. But one thing was certain. The story could not be buried anymore. Marcus gripped her shoulder. You've lit the fire. Now we just have to survive the flames. A knock shattered the moment. Both of them froze. Another knock, louder this time. Marcus reached instinctively for the drawer where he kept a small pistol. Selene shook her head. If it's them, we're already done. Slowly, she approached the door. Who is it? Silence. Then a slip of paper slid under the door. Selene bent, unfolding it with trembling fingers. On it, written in a hurried scrawl, were 4 words. You are not alone. Her breath caught. She looked at Marcus, who stared back wide-eyed. It could be them, he whispered. Or it could be others, Selene said softly, hope threading through the fear. Others who've been waiting like us. She pressed the paper against her chest, her silver hair falling forward, her mind racing. The signal from Carina had already changed her life. Now it was about to change the world's. That night, as the rain cleared, Selene stood by the window. Above the city, clouds broke to reveal a sky scattered with stars. Somewhere out there, across the endless dark, a hidden planet turned in silence, waiting. Selene's reflection shimmered in the glass. Tired, hunted, but unbroken. She whispered into the night, not to Marcus, not to herself, but to the distant pulse she had uncovered. We heard you. And for the first time she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, someone was listening back.
Thanks for watching.